This week's episode is part of our Visit Arizona series, and this week we are taking a little trip back in time and we're going to ride the Verde Canyon Railroad. So listen in. All aboard! Hi, I'm Raya.
And I'm Duane.
And we are your hosts of the Travel Party of Five podcast, where we share how we travel as a family of five around the world.
We will also share how we use points and miles to travel as affordably as possible and sometimes even completely free.
So if you're wanting to travel more with your family, but you're not sure how, we'd love for you to listen in.
So welcome to our podcast, where we hope you learn a thing or two to get you closer to your next trip.
Hi, friends. Welcome back to Travel Party 5 podcast.
Welcome back. Thanks for tuning in.
Today we are doing another Visit Arizona series, and Duane and I just yesterday, at the time of recording, took a trip on the Verde Canyon Railroad. And so, do you want to share how we ended up there?
Yeah, it was a gift I bought Raya for Christmas last year. I thought she might like it.
And I did enjoy it. And so when Duane had originally bought the gift certificate, you asked, right? Like, when's the best time of year to go?
Yes. And the girl that I talked to was very helpful, actually.
And they said fall.
Yeah.
So we had saved it until fall in the hopes that we would see some fall colors. Except we didn't. Spoiler alert.
Yes, because Arizona's been extremely hot this year. I mean, we broke record after record, heat-wise, temperature-wise. So we thought going in late October would be good, but...
Nope.
Nope.
No fall colors yet.
Nope. I mean, we're still 100-degree weather.
It was 100 degrees yesterday. 90s. Broke a record. So it's been very hot, not only in the summer, but it was very hot for October also. Like, normally it's a comfortable temperature outside now, and it hasn't been.
Mornings are nice, but afternoons are still.
Yeah. So let me give you a brief rundown of what to expect on this train ride, and then I'll tell you kind of our experience, what we thought of it, and when I think it would make sense for someone to do this. So it is a 4-hour train ride on Verde Canyon Railroad's historic route from Clarkdale to Perkinsville and back. It's basically through Arizona's other, quote, Grand Canyon, which is the Verde Canyon. And so you ride on a train. Basically, you go through a tunnel, you go over some bridges, which is a little sketchy, and you can see a really good range of Arizona's topography and landscapes.
Yeah. And the train car, let's talk about that real quick, is actually pretty nice. They have like little love seats that seat 4. There's like 2 on each side with a table in the middle for parties of 4. It was just Ray and I, so it's 2 of us. They had chairs on one side that was set up for just 2 people with a table. They give you champagne, water, a charcuterie box. I thought inside the car was way nicer than I thought it was going to be.
It was really nice, and it was air conditioned.
Yeah.
And I think the right side of the train, as you're departing from the station, when you're on the train, the right side, which in our car was the side where all the 2 groups of 2 were, is the better side overall, because the left side, which is where the couches were, was a lot of sometimes just rock. And so the right side is where you could see out and see the beautiful mountains and red rocks and all that. So if you're choosing your seat, I would choose to sit on the right side if you can. However, if you do end up on the left side, so every car, you get assigned a car and then seats within that car. And every car has its own open air car that you can walk to. So, like, we were in the Yuma car, and then behind us was an open air car that we could also walk out. And the open air car is exactly that. There's no walls. You just walk out, and
There is a canopy that can impede some of your sight, but all you gotta do is go to the side there.
yeah. Yeah, we saw everything that we wanted to see, I feel like. So let's back up a little bit. So it took us roughly 2.5 hours to get to the railroad from Phoenix. And I think where you live in Phoenix will depend on whether you're looking at, 2.5 hours or maybe a little less if you're more north. And right before you get to the station, you're going to go through Cottonwood. And that was our first time going through Cottonwood. And I think what I would call like downtown or Main Street Cottonwood was pretty cute. It was
Small but cute.
a really small town. It's a very small town. We did stop at a deli and grab sandwiches, but you cannot bring any outside food on the train, which we didn't realize. So we ate them before we got on. They do give you a charcuterie box, one per person, and it had like deli meats and cheese and fruit and brownies. And they do give you a complimentary champagne toast, like Duane mentioned. So that was cute. And little bottles of water. And they also have a bartender and a bar in each car. So we could have ordered additional drinks. Well, Duane did order a beer. They had mixed drinks. They had coffee. They had non-alcoholic drinks too. But
Yeah. Each car came with a bartender. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean it was pretty cool.
it was cool. So you basically are on this train for 2 hours, and it's an out and back route. And so at the end, when you get to the end, the train doesn't turn around. They literally move the engine from the front of the train to the back of the train, and then the back of the train becomes the front, and then you go back. And so that was kind of interesting to see the engine just go cruising by on its way to the back of the plane or train, which then became the front of the train. And then we moseyed on back. We were both in agreement, though, that 4 hours was a little bit too long.
Yeah, especially because on the way back, the 2 hour ride back is the same 2 hour ride you just took,
Yeah, so you're looking at the same things.
So I mean, if there was like a loop where it was 4 straight hours of just
Different scenery.
yeah, I thought that would have been really cool. But the fact that, like she said, you stop, the engine moves to the back, which is now the front, and then it just goes on the same track back.
You do learn a lot about the history, which I found interesting. When you go out to the open air car, there is a guy out there pretty much the entire time telling you about certain rock formations. We saw Sinawa cliff dwellings, or what they think were Sinawa cliff dwellings within the mountains.
Which is a native tribe of people.
Yeah, and so that was cool to see. You learn about the history of the valley and the history of the railroad, which was actually quite interesting. I won't spoil it, but I enjoyed it. Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. Like I said, it was a little bit too long.
I'm talking about the history specifically.
Oh, the history, yes. I mean, the guy seemed very knowledgeable. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
And so there's a book that I think I might buy and read that he recommended about the daughter of the guy who made the railroad. The book is called Empty Mansions. I'm gonna look it up.
Who was the guy? Clarkdale?
Yeah.
No. Is that his name?
His name was Clark something. Or something Clark.
Didn't he say that the family still owned it to this day?
That's the Perkinsville station.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the train ends in Perkinsville, and that's where they will move the engine from the front of the train to the back of the train. And so you're there for maybe 20, 30 minutes just waiting while they go through this process, and they're telling you the story about where you are. And so Perkinsville is still to this day owned by the Perkins family. And it's a completely dilapidated house and what used to be an old depot stop back in the day for the train. And the depot stop is actually featured in the movie How the West Was Won. So that was cool to hear, I guess. But the family still owns that land today. And the railroad still goes through it. I'm assuming they still make money from it somehow. Yeah, so the book that they recommended was called Empty Mansions, The Mysterious Life of Huguette Clark and the Spending of a Great American Fortune. Basically, she was, I think, the youngest and last daughter of the guy who owned this railroad and died without a will. And she spent her fortune just building mansions and staffing mansions that she never visited. She was a recluse and apparently lived in a room above a hospital or something. I'm going to buy this book and I'm going to read it because I'm a history nerd and I enjoy stuff like that. Free delivery overnight, 4 to 8 a.m. It'll arrive. Anyways, so yeah, there's a lot of history with this train ride and I thought that was cool. Definitely gives you a good insight into Arizona. They talk a lot about the town of Jerome and mining and copper and all that. I don't know that I would drive to do this railroad from Phoenix if that was the only thing I was doing. But if I were in Sedona or maybe even Flagstaff, I do think that this is worth a day trip.
Yeah. So I don't know if you mentioned this, but there's also a night train ride that you can do where you're basically just stargazing, I think. Right?
I have no idea. Is that true?
I'm pretty sure, yes. So when I called to book it or buy the gift certificates, she was telling me that there are all types of different train rides. There's like a booze cruise, which they called Ales on Rails. Was a train ride. There's stargazing. There's a Christmas train ride. There's just different themes to some of the train rides that they offer.
Yeah, I knew about the Ales and Rails. So yeah, I would look into it and see if there's any themed train rides, maybe the time that you're there.
But definitely try and go in the fall.
Yeah, I bet you in about 2 more weeks, like mid-November, which is actually maybe when this episode is going to air, there is probably much more color on the trees. So I would bring a deck of cards or something because there is no cell phone service in the canyon. So for about 3 of the 4 hours, you can't use your phone if you need internet. And so we were saying that we wish we had brought a deck of cards or something.
Yeah, because you sit in the train and you look at the scenery, and I mean, that's pretty much it. So,
yeah, I mean, yeah. And there is a restroom in every car. We actually never use the restroom, so I don't really know what to expect in there, but there is a restroom in every car, and you can go in and out to the open air car as many times as you want. And yeah, I do think it would be cool if you were staying in Sedona or Flagstaff and you were looking for a fun day trip. I think that this would be a cool way to see, the landscape of Arizona, because you do see there's stunning rock formations. You can see some red rocks. It runs all along the Verde River, and so that is cool to see because it's kind of like the contrast of the desert landscape with the river, which has so much greenery around it. So Arizona really is beautiful. There's so much more to Arizona than just Phoenix. And so we have done an episode about the best day trips to take, or not day trips, but the best trips that are within a few hours of Phoenix. And one of them obviously is Sedona. So if I were in Sedona, I would stay at the Pinion Point, which is the Hyatt Vacation Club there. You can book that with points. And I think that this would be a fun, afternoon. And then, wake up, go to breakfast somewhere, drive out to do the railroad, go back and have a nice dinner in Sedona.
Yeah.
That's how I would spend my day if I were going to do this. If you have any questions, the best way to ask us is to find us on Instagram at travelpartyof5. And it is me who will answer you. So definitely give us a follow and send us a DM over there if you have any specific questions or any episodes upcoming that you'd like to see. Otherwise, we thank you very much for listening.
Yes, as always, we appreciate you.
And we would love it if you would follow, leave a review, anything that can help support the show if you are so inclined. We do put a lot of time and effort into creating these episodes, and we greatly appreciate you taking the time to listen.
Yes, so thank you again.
We will catch you on the next one.
Thanks for tuning in. Have a good one.
Bye.